Happy New Year! Welcome to Bishop's Blast. Once again, I'm your host. I go by the name of Dr. Me Bain, where we dive into what I consider a sanitized version of a YouTube channel where we talk about all things firearms related. Now, I'm not a subject matter expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just an retired Navy guy who loves God and has quite the affinity for all things that go boom. So at this point in time, do me a favor real quick, if you don't mind. If you would hit that subscribe button, I want to thank each and every one of you that have already done so, because it's allowing you to help chronicle this firearm journey with me. I believe it's allowing us to be able to have a blast together. And since I'm already asking for favors, do me another one real quick, please. If you don't mind hitting that like button. I'm thankful for each and every one of you that are sharing this. And now we're in 2024. We're gonna continue to have a blast. So come on, let's get it in. At this point, we're going to start off the year what I call my versus version. So we're going to be talking about two different styles, if you will, of firearms. We're going to be talking about a hammer-fired firearm versus a striker-firearm, and which one is best for you. Before I get into it, let me go ahead and dive to the end from the beginning and let you know, when it comes down to you choosing a firearm that best suits you, make sure it suits the purpose from what you need it. So instead of letting somebody tell you, well, hey, you ought to use this and you ought to use a hammer fire. Well, we started with hammer fire and well, this new technology, we ought to stay with hammer fire. I want you to be able to, number one, figure out what is your purpose, and then allow your firearm that you select to kind of in line with the purpose that you would have for it. And not only that, quick parenthetical footnote, I always say this: if you're going to pick one that's going to be something that you utilize as a tool that has the potential to save you or a loved one, why don't you also take that thing to the range? I know some of you might be out there like Allen Iverson. Practice, yeah, you need to practice so that you become proficient if you ever had to actually utilize it. Now, that's my public service announcement. Let me go ahead and get into this. So I'm talking about whether it's a hammer fire or striker fire pistol. I have them both, and I thoroughly enjoy both of them. But I do have to say I started off with a hammer fire, and specifically I started off with hammer fire that was a wheel gun, and I don't have very many of them. We consider a wheel gun, we call them revolvers. So this is what I'm showing you right now. This is the Taurus Rossi. This is the Taurus Rossi. It's actually chambered in 38 special. The Taurus Rossi chambered in 38 special. So I want to show you that it is clear. There is nothing in this. Because of the particularity when it comes down to the firing pin, when I do not have a snap cap in it, I don't like to get ahead and dry fire this firearm specifically, because I don't want to break the firing pin, which literally leads to my point when it comes down to this hammer fired firearm. It has a hammer that once you pull the trigger and the hammer goes forward, it allows that firing pin to actually go forward and hit the cartridge primer, which ignites and allows the projectile to go forward. So that's the reason why we have the hammer fire, and the hammer fire came forward. So historically, for all of the new pistols that you're seeing, we started off with the hammer fire. So when I say hammer time, we started off with the hammer fire, where you can see the external and sometimes have internal hammers that go forward. Let me get and show you something else real quick. Now, all of them don't have an external hammer. So some of them, this is the Ruger LCP2. This Ruger, first and foremost, firearm clear, safe direction, pull the trigger. This Ruger LCP2 is actually chambered in 380, and it actually has an internal hammer. Now, I can't really show you without flagging myself, but when I pull the trigger inside this firearm, the hammer is actually going back, and then when the trigger is pulled, the hammer goes forward. So it has an internal hammer that goes with it. So just because you don't see an external hammer like you saw in the Rossi, you actually still have a hammer that's going forward. Now, some of the benefits to actually seeing this. This is, I think it is a Bull Armory, government style, 1911. Also, clear, safe direction, pull the trigger. When you're looking at this, when you see these, it also gives you a visual understanding of what condition my firearm is in. So if I'm sitting at it and I see that the hammer is all the way secured closed, and that's in double action mode, that means it's going to have to go all the way back. So the longer and the most that I pull the trigger back, I'm going to feel that trigger going back. And the trigger pull is generally heavier than in a single action. So when I pull the trigger back, the hammer will go back. Or I can cock it back and immediately go to single action mode. And then when I pull the trigger, it has a lighter trigger pull. So this one specifically probably has maybe 6 pound trigger pull in double action mode, and probably it's a 1911, probably has a 3 pound trigger pull in single action. So this is what I wanted you to be able to see. I used to watch these movies, and I watched this one movie where, even though the benefit is being able to see the hammer, see what position it is, there was somebody who was actually crazy enough that they tried to go against one, and they tried to put something in the way of it so it would stop the hammer from taking the striker pin forward and hitting the cartridge primer. So crazy, doesn't make any sense, but this is what we pretty much started off with when it comes down to hammer fire. Now let's go to striker fire. Striker fire is something that it has an internal striker that has a spring and spring loaded that allows the striker to go forward, and then once again to hit the cartridge primer to allow the projectile to go out. This is actually the Taurus G3C, safe and clear. Shoot, the Taurus G3C, and this is chambered in 9mm. Now, this is what people consider the latest and greatest, because we started off historically with the hammer fire, and now a lot of people have progressed over to the striker fire. Now, when it comes down to the striker fire, I will say this: striker fire firearms are usually, even though it is higher technology, it is cheaper, or a little, I don't want to use the term cheap, a little bit more inexpensive than it is from a hammer fire. Mostly because there are a lot less moving parts inside of a striker fired firearm than it is when it comes down to a hammer fired firearm. So it has that going for it. Also, because it doesn't have the double action or single action, this striker fired firearm has single action only. Some people will argue that you have a more consistent, smoother trigger pull throughout the whole travel of the trigger than you would if you're doing a double action. I just believe, once again, if we go back to that practice, if you practice that trigger pull, whether it's in double action or single action, and you practice pulling it, yes, it's going to be a little bit harder when you start dealing with the double action to single action, but the next few will be on the single action. If you practice with it, you become proficient in that. So I just really wanted to say, hey, which one do you like? Somebody put in the comments. Are you a hammer fire person or you're a striker fire person? Now, to me, it doesn't really matter. There are certain firearms that I have that are hammer fire, certain ones that I have that are striker fire. The ones that I generally carry are striker fired pistols, but that's just my personal preference. That's the ones that I go to the range with. That's the ones that I utilize the most, and that's the one that I have more comfortability in sharing information on. But I have no problem. I started off on hammer fire pistols, so I have no problem with them. I just know that if that's something that I'm going to be utilizing, I need to be able to say it with me. I need to be able to practice utilizing that firearm. So I want to thank you once again for tuning in with me to Bishop's Blast as we talked about hammer versus striker fire pistols and seeing which one works best for you. I want to let you know I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed. I was doing this just for a hobby, and still am. I'm going to do this as long as I'm having a blast doing it. But I do want to be thankful for people that are asking me specifically for specific content. So probably in the upcoming weeks. I've had a lot of people ask me for a female or older individuals, what firearm would you choose? So I think I have that on deck, but I want to thank you for continuing to tune in with me. Also, I'm gonna get ahead and let you know, yes, I'm getting to the point where I believe that blessed people bless people, so I'm going to start doing some giveaways. I'm going to have to wait a little bit, so when I get to about 500 subscribers, I'm going to do an initial giveaway, probably some kind of a kit, but a nice kit. Then when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to have some kind of a high-tech gift that I want to do and utilize as a giveaway. And maybe, just maybe, if I'm one of those people that can grow to 5,000 or more, maybe I'll be actually giving away a firearm as well. Come on, you have to continue to tune in with me to see. And I am so blessed to have you to be able to chronicle this journey with me. So once again, you tune in to Bishop's Blast 2024. I want you to continue to stay with me. I drop one every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I want you to stay tuned in with me, and be blessed. God bless you.